so sorry I'm late. Are you Montgomery?
Yes. You're 13 minutes and 12 seconds late.
Yeah, sorry. Traffic was awful. Not to mention I got so lost on the way up here. Anyways, I'm Gertrude. Can I call you Monty?
No, you may not. Montgomery was the name my father gave me, the only thing a father should give to their child.
What do you mean? You don't think parents are equally important in the upbringing of their children?
No, I don't. What a daft thing to say. Previous research indicates that a child's relationship with their father has less of an impact on their behavioural outcomes than their relationship with their mother. It's elementary science, really.
What do you mean?
Well, if you must know, a recent study found that mother-child relationships have greater impacts on children's behavioural outcomes than father-child relationships. So there you have it. Factual evidence that a father is less important than a mother in their child's life.
I think you're really oversimplifying this issue. I'd argue that a father's role in their child's upbringing is different to the mother's, but equally important. A longitudinal study by Grossman and colleagues in 2002 of 44 families found that while the quality of infant attachment with the mother was related to social outcomes in adolescence, the quality of the play with the father was also related to social outcomes in adolescence. So there you have it. The role of the father is important like the mother's, just different.
I highly doubt such a study exists. Gertrude, describe it to me in detail.
Well, Montgomery, since you seem to be the expert on this issue, given that you've read all of one paper on this topic, I'm sure you know the role of the father in attachment is actually a really under-researched issue, especially compared to the amount of research there is on the role of the mother. The paper starts with a review on the limited past research that there is. It discusses the theories of major researchers like Bowlby on the role of the father. For example, Bowlby's theory states, and I quote, that the father is more of a trusted play companion and a subsidiary attachment figure than a principal attachment figure. Shaffer and Emerson's study in 1964 found that most infants only formed an attachment to their parents in their second year, to their father in their second year. Most of them formed an attachment to the mother before this. However, by the age of 18 months, 75% of infants were reported by their mothers to be protesting separation from their fathers.
Wasn't aware you read such academic literature.
Just because girls have pink hair doesn't make us any less smart, you know.
Well, tell me more about this first study though. My interest has been piqued.
Well, the researchers measured the attachment of the children to each parent separately, using the standardized strange situation method at around 16 months old.
By the strange situation, you mean the experiment conducted by Mary Ainsworth that observes how strong the emotional bond is between babies and their caregivers when separated and reunited?
Yes, indeed. Do you know how it is conducted?
Of course! It's an observational procedure that involves separating and reuniting a child with their parents several times to assess attachment behaviour. This behaviour is assessed in different scenarios, such as the presence of a stranger without the caregiver present, how the child acts when they're completely alone, and how the child acts when reunited with their caregiver. Judged by how the infant reacts, they can be classed as having secure, avoidant, resistant, or disorganised attachment. Even though the strange situation was developed over 5 decades ago, it remains to this day as a reliable procedure used in over 285 studies in over 20 countries to date.
Well done. I suppose you're more well-read than I gave you credit for. After using the strange situation, though, the researchers followed up with the children again when they were around 6. They conducted the separation anxiety test, which is a measure of attachment security suitable for older children. They found that early measures of attachment from the strange situation with mothers and fathers in infancy predicted children's attachment security at age 6.
That's all?
No, they followed up with the children at age 10 too. At this age, they measured the children's internal working models of attachment. An internal working model is a child's mental expectations of attachment based on their relationship with their primary caregiver, by the way. The researchers looked at how early mother and father interactions predicted these internal working models.
Could you perhaps be more specific about that?
Well, they found father's sensitive and challenging play was a better predictor of the children's internal working model than just infant attachment security measured in the strange situation.
And did they ever follow up again with these children?
As a matter of fact, they did. When the children were 6, they studied their attachment representations again. They measured their internal working models by using the separation anxiety test, which included 6 photographs or drawings of children undergoing varying lengths of separation. These pictures were shown in an interview to each child as a way of assessing their thoughts, feelings, and reported behaviours in response to each picture. This is due to how past studies have shown that securely attached children respond to these pictures illustrating parent-child separations in a way that is indicative of this secure internal working model. The overall internal security of each child is rated on a 7-point scale, with a high score being given if the child verbalized feelings of fear, anger, or sadness in response to severe but not mild separations. Each child's score was determined by whether they positively evaluated the availability of supportive peers, their emotional openness, and whether they exhibited developmentally appropriate coping behaviours. These variables were related to having a secure internal working model, as dictated by Bowlby. Bowlby also stated that a child who is certain of their parents' acceptance and support can tolerate how they feel about them and confidently believes they do not have to deny these feelings in return. In addition, researchers also measured children's autonomy and relatedness in interactions with parents.
What do you mean by autonomy and relatedness?
Well, by autonomy, I mean being assertive with their parents about conflict, and by relatedness, I mean warmth, affection, and cooperation.
I see. And what did they find?
They found that early father-play sensitivity, not just infant attachment classifications, was one of the strongest predictors of the adolescent's internal working models at age 16. So there you have it, a concrete and robust study that proves the father has an important but qualitatively different role to that of the mother in their child's upbringing.
I see. Well, I can hardly argue with objective scientific evidence. But what about Bernier and Miljakovic?
I'm sorry, I'm not following. Can you fill me in?
Well, it's just a study that I happened to stumble upon the other day about single-parent relationships, and perhaps it could broaden our understanding of Grossman's research. It compared child attachment in single-father dynamics and married-father dynamics. In families where fathers were not the sole caregiver, the study found no link between the father's attachment history and the child's attachment style. However, when the father was the only caregiver and therefore the primary one, patterns in their own attachment histories were reflected in their child's emotional responses and attachment styles. In some ways, this contradicts Grossman's research that states that the role of the father is different, still important. The study shows that this is only true in parents that are still together. Fathers can adopt the same maternal role that the mother stereotypically has if the father is the primary caregiver. Isn't that interesting?
Oh, I see. I guess you could say that both Grossman's study and that study could change our real-world view slightly. For example, traditionally in court, the custody of a child is often granted to the mother because of these stereotypical views of gender roles in parenting. Studies of the importance of the role of the father shake things up slightly.
Yes, it does indeed. In the US, research indicates the number of custodial fathers increased from about 2.18 million in 1993 to 2.64 million in 2011. And the share of custodial parents who are fathers rose from around 16% to about 18.3% over that same period. This reflects a gradual increase in paternal custody roles over time. One could say that this is evidence that intensive research into the role of the father has great impacts on the lives of millions.
So, can I get you guys anything to drink? Or if you're ready to order, would you like a side of criticality to go with your meal?
I beg your pardon?
Well, I believe you two are looking at this through a pretty oversimplified lens. Have you considered the fact that Grossman's study was correlational? How can you be so sure that it was the father's play that generated responses in the adolescents? It could be a result of a third variable problem. As you also considered the fact the study was conducted in Germany with German families, cultural backgrounds can play a crucial role when assessing fathers' importance to their offspring.
What do you mean?
Well, Germany is a Western country with individualistic values. They may view the role of the father differently than, say, a non-Western culture such as China. In fact, research has actually suggested that non-Western cultures like China have different ideals surrounding the role of the father. Specifically, that they have traditionally been given a more disciplinarian, authoritarian, and educative role.
Interesting.
And, not to mention, your information sources are incredibly outdated. Such an age study can be inaccurate in today's world, and can even be harmful to refer to. In fact, previous research has concluded that outdated studies can disrupt comprehension processes, such such information can influence and distort newer subsequent narratives.
Excuse me, sorry. I couldn't help but overhear your conversation, and I thought I might give you some food for thought. So I actually wrote down a few notes here in this newspaper. Have either of you considered the fact that there are many children who grow up without their fathers, but still have good emotional and social outcomes in later life.
Sorry, who are you? How do you know all of this?
Oh, well, I actually have a PhD in developmental psychology, and my thesis was on the differences between outcomes of children in single and two-parent households. My study found no difference in parent-child relationships and child development between children in single-mother households and those in two-parent households. This provides concrete research evidence that the presence of a father for a child may not be critical for their healthy emotional and psychological development.
Actually, I think I read this study. I believe the study also found that single mothers have larger support networks, which may have also played a role in explaining why their children had similar emotional outcomes to children from two-parent households. Doesn't that also need to be taken into account?
That's true, actually. She's clearly done her research, that one. Nevertheless, while that is definitely something that this discourse should consider with regards to my study, it does still give way to the idea that the role of the father in the child's upbringing might not be as important as Grossman's study makes it seem, especially since the study was conducted in 2002, which is over 20 years ago.
Well, actually, now that you mention it, there are more recent studies that support the role of the father as different to that of the mother, but still important.
Do tell, Gertrude.
Well, a study as recent as 2023 in China found that maternal involvement positively predicts children's peer competence, with playfulness partially mediating this relationship. This, once again, highlights that the role of the father in their child's upbringing is unique, distinct from the role of the mother, but still important for positive outcomes for the child.
That study does sound particularly helpful, especially as it was conducted in a non-Western setting, which I'm certain that you said had different, more disciplinarian ideals surrounding the role of the father.
I did. The fact that Grossman and colleagues' findings are also supported in a vastly different cultural environment does help to improve the external validity of their research, especially as the study in China was conducted so much more recently. Consequently, this allows us to infer that the role of the father is unique and different to the role of the mother cross-culturally.
That's a very good point, Miss Waitress. Research findings that are supported in many cultures help to determine whether a psychological concept is applicable universally. For instance, the cross-national adolescent social competence study indicated that 89% of Chilean teenagers reported that their mothers demonstrated supportive behaviors compared to 85% of fathers. This suggests that the father's role in supporting his children is important and noticeable in childhood development all the way through to their teenage years.
That's some solid insight. Going back to Grossman's study, such a piece of research provided a solid theoretical framework for expanding the understanding of father-child attachment, which is a great contribution to developmental psychology and the broader field of attachment theory.
I never thought about it like that. Researchers can totally transform our perception of the world.
I couldn't agree with you more. This single study sheds light on the fact that fathers are able to specialise in stimulation and destabilisation during play, thereby enabling the development of high-quality father-child relationships. This, in turn, allows fathers to take a more active role in raising their children, potentially providing an opportunity for mothers to return to work earlier and help stimulate the economy. Aids in putting an end to the harmful stereotypical idea that the mother's role is to look after the children whilst the father makes the money for the family. And perhaps it could allow single fathers to feel a little more assured. They can still raise perfectly normal children without the presence of the mother.
I can see you're thinking critically like an actual psychologist. Has you or your boyfriend ever thought about pursuing a career in psychology?
We're not.
Actually, yes. I tell him all the time, he's amazing potential in his field.
Uh-huh. Is that so?
Well, I obviously could tell that you two just met, but the way you have been going about this discussion tells me that you two could be a highly compatible couple. I will now leave you two to your date. Thank you for an inspiring evening. After seeing how passionate and knowledgeable two strangers can be, you restored my faith in science's significance in everyday life. Sometimes typing away at the computer leaves me feeling unappreciated and unimportant. Now though, I am confident I can return to searching for truth and enriching developmental psychology. Once again, I am beyond grateful. Thank you and have a good night.
Wow, unbelievable how much we impacted and eavesdropped with self-esteem.
Yeah. You know, I am having a pretty great time with you this evening.
Me too. Also, I meant what I said about your potential.
Oh please, with your brains, I wouldn't even think twice before becoming a scientist.
Stop, you're just saying that.
If I must be honest, I've never met a woman so striking and yet so knowledgeable.
I'm sorry. Might have to wrap this up now. We're closing in a bit.
Well, I guess this is it. Thank you for tonight, Gertrude. I'm looking forward to seeing you again. Maybe politics debate next time?
Thank you, Montgomery. I would love that.
You can call me Monty.